Hey guys, welcome to the video. Today I'm just doing an unboxing on something that I have wanted to see for quite a while now, and that is an affordable Tekken figure line. We have the first wave of Tekken Game Dimensions figures from Bandai, Heihachi and Kazuya Mishima. Now, these I only found out about relatively recently, and then it turned out they were coming out like more or less straight away. So I was excited to pick these up as soon as possible. Now, on Bandai's website, they were $27.99 with £3 flat rate shipping, but I got them from a UK website called In Demand Toys for $25.99 free shipping, saved about £7. And if you make an account, you can also save an extra £1 if you use the credits it gives you. These are a pretty interesting figures. They're like I say, they're an affordable Tekken line. Not all of us can afford Storm Collectibles figures, and these are, I suppose, what we get. Now, the thing that I mainly have a problem with in terms of the price point of these figures is that I don't really see them as any better than Bandai's Anime Heroes range, which are a flat £20. So I'm not really sure why they're charging $28 for these. And the digital renders, obviously, I mean, kind of needs must. I kind of had to pick these up. But on the digital renders, I just did not think these actually looked that amazing. That being said, you know, I was holding out that these, like with many other things nowadays, looked better in person than on like the pictures and stuff. And if I'm completely honest, they do. So first of all, on the preview images, Kazuya's scars weren't even like coloured in. And it felt like the heads were a little bit kind of like, you know, weren't necessarily the best sculpt jobs in the world. They kind of looked almost like an homage to Tekken 1 or Tekken 2 even, just because they weren't the highest standard. Now, I know that they're not going to make like the absolute best figures in the world in an affordable figure line, and in fact, they probably don't want to make them anywhere near rivaling Storm Collectibles. But yeah, I do think these are kind of interesting. So first of all, we will get into Kazuya, I think, because that is just more interesting for me personally. So on the box, we have a little Tekken 8 sticker that says "Stay tuned." It's very cool. We've got the Game Dimensions logo here, which is obviously that kind of like, which is obviously meant to be that kind of 3D effect. But I'm not convinced that it's printed well enough, because it kind of just looks blurry rather than like 3D or anything. We got the picture of him down the front there, Tekken Kazuya. I think the packaging is really nice, and in many ways it's kind of a shame that I am someone who, you know, I've wanted these figures so I can make animations with them. So it is a bit of a shame that I do want to open these, and I don't really want to pay that amount of money to buy a second copy just to keep them boxed. We've got the same image on the side there with the Tekken logo, and then on the back we have the render of the figure. Now, I just think that does not look great at all. But if I actually look at the figure, I think that even in box is already looking a lot better. You know, we actually have like a skin tone, we have coloured in tattoos, we have actual detail on the pants. The pants, actually, you can't see the detail on them there, but you know what I mean? Like, it looks just more detailed than on this picture. I actually think this doesn't do them justice at all. We've got the Heihachi there. Again, you can literally just see on the box like how much better the actual figure is looking. Although the Heihachi head's probably better than the Kazuya one to begin with. And then we have two unlocks here. These are Jin and King, which will be coming out like God knows when as Wave 2. So it's cool to know that they are going to make more of these. However, you could argue it might have been nice if they had more than two figures in the initial wave. And we also have some stills of the two fighting on the back of the box. So that is very cool. That's a nice little detail. We've got the Tekken 7 logo right up in the top corner as well. I think the packaging on these guys is really cool. And now I'm just going to get into Kazuya, and we'll see what he's bringing to the party. Oh wow, he just slid right out. Okay, so I don't like the way that looks, but I'm sure it's fine. I'm just not used to that style of articulation, I suppose. Right. Okay, so initial impressions. I don't really know. I'm not convinced on that leg articulation. Like, that doesn't, like that. I mean, that. Oh yeah, okay, I see. Still doesn't look like it aligns quite correctly. You know, one leg is definitely lower down than the other there. One thing I will say is that these feel fine. In terms of like wrestling figures, which I'm more familiar with, they feel like better build quality than the AEW Jazzwares figures. Maybe a little bit worse than a Mattel Elite. There's the head. Does look a bit better than on that render, but I do think it doesn't really kind of capture like Kazuya's actual look. It just kind of, you know, it's kind of a generic face. But we've got that devil eye in there. We've got those face scars, so that's cool. And the hair is pretty much spot on, really. We do have the painted scars, as I mentioned. These were not painted on the render. But he also has some others on his arms, which aren't coloured in, that you can just see there. Got his trademark gloves there. A pretty standard Kazuya kind of attire, really. And the scar on the back is not coloured in. And that's the back look of the figure. So we'll get into the joint check now, just to make sure that all of the joints are spot on, and we'll see. So first of all, we have like a head swivel, which is good, but then we also have like a neck swivel, which is an interesting like extra piece of articulation there. Doesn't seem all that necessary, but I'm sure, you know, people will appreciate that. I'm sure it's probably more useful than I'm really giving it credit for. I'm just not really used to that kind of thing. We've got a shoulder there. That moves out like really nice. Bicep swivel is pretty good. We've got the double jointed elbow. That's nice. That's like a ratchet elbow. It's not quite a ratchet, but it is like it, you know what I mean? Like it is one, it's just maybe not a brilliant one. The wrist is a little bit loose. And the ab joint here is really quite loose. But again, it's like a ratchet. So it does hold its shape. That is okay as it kind of stands. Waist joint. That's pretty firm. I mean, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, there's only so far you really should be moving the waist anyway, I should imagine. That shoulder's fine. Bicep swivel's fine. The elbow ratchet is fine. And the wrist that's stiffer than the first one. In terms of the leg, you could get these higher than a standard figure because of that type of leg articulation. And now I'm starting to warm to it, actually. So we've got that kind of clearance on a kick, really. Which is pretty good because, you know, I guess standard articulation on like on the legs of like a Tekken figure isn't necessarily going to give you the kicks you want. There must be some kind of... Oh, okay, that's interesting. So there's like there's some sort of play between the legs. So one goes up, one goes down. That's really interesting. I've never seen that before. That is fascinating. There, so you can get them at the same height. Just takes a little bit of finesse. I really like the colours of his attire there. Like the belt's really nice. It's a really nice colour scheme. So yeah, as I say, we can get that leg really high, and the joint is fine. We've got the double jointed knees. Then that's nice and stiff. And this foot actually moves. So it's a bit better than what I'm used to most of the time with my Mattel figures. It doesn't move far, doesn't move much, but you know, up and down, left to right, it does move. This leg goes up fine as well. Ratchet, double jointed knees, and that foot. Pretty cool, you know. These are like, yeah, it might not be the most aesthetically pleasing in the world, but you know, I'm not mad about this. Like, I'm not mad about the price point, really. You know, it's okay. I'm glad I didn't have to spend any more to get these, because it did feel like an obligation to buy these. Like, I felt like I didn't really have a choice in the matter if I wanted Tekken figures. It also comes with an acrylic sign with round 1 and a stand that kind of looks like one of those things musicians use to hold up the sheet music. So we can hold the sign up like that. It doesn't seem like these stands are really designed to hold the figures. And we also have the interchangeable hands. So the hands he currently has on, but on each other's hands. The interchangeable hands are, the peg is on the wrist. So that's interesting. That's not something I'm used to, really. And of course we have the energy here. It's almost like a Spider-Man or a Palpatine figure kind of thing. Let's try and jazz him up a bit so he's not just throwing the punch. There you go. So, all in all, you know, I think this is quite interesting, really. I'm still not overjoyed with the head. I'm still not blown away by that. But these are honestly better than I expected. And yeah, I'm not mad. It's fine. It's fine. It's cool. Of course, you're going to have to make your own opinion up on whether you think they're worth it or not. But yeah, I mean, I can only go so far there. So now we're going to switch these guys over and we'll get Heihachi opened. Okay, so again, initial impressions. This guy looks pretty cool. I wasn't expecting this robe to be like, it's like a soft rubber. I was kind of just expecting it to be like a hard plastic, like the trousers, to be honest. So that's really cool. I guess it's probably going to mean it has a bit more malleability in terms of like articulation and all that kind of stuff. So that's really, really cool. Another thing I would say is that he's really chunky. I wasn't kind of expecting him to be so like thick. I guess, you know, it is kind of accurate to Heihachi, but like, you know, I guess I'd never really thought about him being such a chunky boy before. But yeah, I mean, his feet are huge as well. Look at the size of them. So let's do a zoom in. So the head, I think, is pretty good. It kind of does give me those older PlayStation graphics vibes, in my personal opinion. But I do think it looks good. It's definitely Heihachi in there. Again, we don't have the painted scar on his torso. You know, that's basically how they looked on the render for him and Kazuya. But that's a bit of a shame. But it is what it is. I guess you can't really see it all that well under the gi anyway. A nice red belt on the gi as well. That's really, really cool. We've got the wrists all taped up, of course. Grey leggings. This is a pretty standard Heihachi attire, which means we've got the tiger on the back there, which looks really nice. It's a really nice decal. Of course, they'd packaged it backwards in the box so you could see the tiger. Not really much else of note on the back there, apart from his massive back heels. So now, again, we'll get into the joint check, make sure everything's in order. So, his neck is a lot shorter than Kazuya's, but we still have that articulation in the neck. It's actually kind of hard to separate the head from the neck, but the head's fine. The neck's maybe a little bit more loose, but it's okay, more or less. That shoulder's fine. They go up like really easy, like these shoulders go up really nice. The biceps fine. That ratchet elbow is fine, and that wrist is completely fine. That's really good. Shoulder, that one's maybe a little bit more loose, but it does its job well, you know. Bicep swivel. Elbow is a bit tight there, but, you know, we got through it. We survived that, guys. The wrist is fine. Torso here, a bit more, actually still, that gi's still kind of in the way of really using that, but we can, you know, you can still bow with it, I guess, to some extent. That's about the range we're getting of it, because it's just bouncing back up on that soft rubber. Maybe it's a detriment, actually, rather than a thing, but the waist is fine with it. In terms of legs, obviously Heihachi's only going to kick so high anyway. He does have the same articulation. As you can see, it's just hidden by the rubber gi. That's also going to be kind of detrimental to him getting his leg up that high. The legs are really thick though, and the feet, of course, are really, really big, so he's going to stand up really well. Both legs move up fine. That ratchet knee is nice and stiff, as I imagine his real ratchet knees would be. That foot is pretty good, actually. That's straight up and down, left to right. That leg goes up fine. Knees maybe a little bit more stiff, but it works, it holds its shape. And there we go, that's everything. So, these are really, really cool figures. I do feel like the heads could have been better, but I also feel like I'm going to forget about that as time goes on. No, I feel like I'm just going to get used to that. It's not really that big of a deal. One thing I didn't talk about with Kazuya as well is the backing card. This is really cool, and the fact that the two line up together is very, very cool as well. You know, we've got the volcano fight stage between the two. Very, very interesting there. Of course, Heihachi comes with a music note stand as well. And he comes with the ready acrylic sign. He has the same interchangeable hands, just basically what poses he's doing now, but on each other's hands. And a very funky kind of special effect to go with him. I don't know if this is when he does that thing where he's like, you know, if I swap this fist on. When he does this kind of move. I think that's probably it. That probably is what it's designed for. When he does that kind of like double punch move. So that's pretty cool. It's a really, really funky looking shape, that. Just a bit more interesting than giving him the exact same energy effect, I suppose. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad I've committed to these figures, really. And if you're not sure about them, I would give them a go, personally. You know, there were a few people that weren't convinced when I posted these on Instagram, much like myself, weren't necessarily convinced that these were, like, the best products in the world. But honestly, they are a lot better in person than I was expecting. I think that the digital renders and the promo images and stuff did them no justice. And I do think that these are much cooler in person. That being said, if you enjoyed this video, please do like, comment and subscribe. And check out my unboxings playlist. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye.